tonight with you, and hopefully that can be a support. Um, Many of you who have been here before know that after, if you do miss a class, you can always find it with the link that we send as a follow-up. And there's lots of materials in that link that we send as a follow-up. There's a book that's there, a couple articles. So those are some resources you can use to deepen your practice if you'd like. But I thought I'd start with a reading tonight, and then we'll do a short, and then we'll do a longer practice, probably about a 25-minute practice to close out. So I thought I would begin with a reading by Rilke. For one human being to love another, that is perhaps the most difficult of our tasks, the ultimate, the last test and proof, the work for which all other work is but a preparation. I'll read that again. For one human being to love another, that is perhaps the most difficult of our tasks, the ultimate, the last test and proof, the work for which all other work is but preparation. So if you want to settle in and find a comfortable position, we can sit on the floor, sit in a chair. You can even be lying down if that's what works for you. If you're sitting up, it's helpful to have kind of an erect, straight spine, so we're not leaning back or slumping. That tends to take the mind into a place of rest or sleepiness. So having that alert posture is helpful. The chin can be down slightly, so we're not pushing on the vertebra and looking back or up. And eyes can be closed if you're comfortable with that. If not, even half closed, kind of looking down towards the floor. Feet are flat on the floor. And so this body position helps to create a sense of alertness and wakefulness. So posture is helpful. Hands can be in the lap if you'd like. Left hand can be on the bottom. Right hand can be resting on top of the left hand with thumbs touching if you'd like, or whatever, again, is comfortable for you. These are just suggestions. And let's just begin by bringing attention to the body right now. Just noticing the body. Coming into the present moment. And as we begin, some of the preparation we can do for our practice is begin with review your purpose for meditating tonight. Just be honest with yourself. Don't judge your reasons or anything. Just be aware and accept them. It might just be have a more peaceful mind, or to rest, or to let go of some heaviness, or to open to your true nature, whatever it might be. It's what motivates you. It's the purpose for meditation tonight. And with that in mind, then we let go of any particular expectations we might have for our practice. So as we enter each practice, we come in with this intention, our purpose, but then we let go of any of actually having to achieve those. We just allow those to flow to the background and recognize whatever happens, happens. And then just resolving to be with the practice with diligence. We can just kind of fall into a deeply foggy or relaxed state and not really be on the mark, being with our moment by moment experience. So it takes a bit of energy to be with the practice. So diligence. And finally, just looking at the mind, and if there's any distractions, any heaviness that we might be carrying into our practice tonight, noticing that, any concerns or what we might have. And just acknowledging those and letting them know that you'll address them. But for the next 45 minutes or so, they can take a rest and you'll come back refreshed and renewed to do what needs to be done. But for now, any of those things that might be weighing in the mind can just fall to the background and rest. No problems to solve right now. Now just moving into our practice. And we'll do some breath awareness. And then our second practice will be a little more in depth, but we'll just do a basic body scan and breath awareness here to begin. So just beginning with 3 slow, deep breaths, inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. And letting go and softening on each exhale. And we'll move into a brief body scan. And just bringing attention to the body through the through the experience of sensations, and just noticing the feet, the sensations of the feet as they contact the floor. And just being with that movement of sensation in the bottoms of the feet. And coming up through the feet, through the ankles, up into the calves and the shins. And noticing sensations in the knees, up into the thighs. And noticing the sensations of the sits bones as they contact the chair, the cushion. Just inviting the lower body, the hips down through the thighs, the knees, the calves, the feet, the toes to soften, soothe, and rest. Soften, soothe, and rest the lower body. Now sensing into the lower back, going up through the middle back, sensing into the shoulder blades, tops of the shoulders, and just inviting the shoulders, the back, the lower back, hips to soften, soothe, and rest. Just releasing any subtle contractions of the muscles. Sensing into the front of the body, the abdomen, the ribs, the chest, and just being with the sensation of the breath in the front of the body and the abdomen and the chest. Continuing up now back into the shoulders, maybe noticing the left shoulder, the left arm and hand. Bringing attention into the left hand. Noticing sensations there in the palm of the hand, the fingers, fingertips. Just inviting that whole left hand and arm and shoulder to soften, soothe, and rest. And shifting over into the right shoulder, dropping down to that right arm, down into the right wrist and hand, sensing into the right palm and fingers, fingertips. Bring the attention back up that right arm and the right shoulder. Just invite that whole right arm and hand, shoulder to soften, soothe, and rest. Sensing into the shoulders, the back of the neck, sides of the neck, front of the neck, the throat, the jaw. And just invite that whole area of the jaw, the neck, the throat, the shoulders to soften, soothe, and rest. Sensing into the chin, the cheeks, the lips, the nose, the eyes, the forehead. That whole face to soften, soothe, and rest. I will just take a couple minutes to be with the breath, bringing the attention into the upper body, this feeling into the breath as the abdomen, the ribs, the chest rise and fall. And the practices here, there that we're just noticing the experience through physical sensation, noticing the breath in the upper body. And we just follow that with our attention, and maybe particularly noticing the beginning and end of each breath and the space in between. So there's a continuity of attention all the way through the breath cycle. And we're basically starting our attention anew with each inhalation and exhalation. So as we notice that beginning, middle, and end, we're really tuning in the attention to be in the present moment of sensation with the breath. If you'd like, at the end of the in-breath, you can silently just say one. At the end of the out-breath, you can silently count two and just do a 1-2 count. And then we'll conclude in just a couple minutes. Just being with the sensation in the upper body of the breath. Doing the 1-2 count at the end of one at the end of the in-breath, two at the end of the out-breath. You'd like to narrow the attention a bit more with the breath, you can notice the sensation of the breath either in the belly, the chest, or the nose, if you'd like. Further kind of focus attention. Continue with the counting. Let's close with words of loving kindness towards ourselves and the world. May I be happy and joyful. May I be healthy in mind, healthy in body, healthy in spirit. May I know inner peace and peace in my relationships. May I be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healthy. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free from suffering and live with ease. So just noticing the breath in the belly now, the feet on the floor, and wiggling the toes and the fingers, waking up the body a little bit. And if you'd like to turn on your cameras, you can. I'm just going to give a short talk here about mindfulness and emotional balance. And we'll open it up to a few questions, and then we'll close with a longer meditation towards the end. So you might wonder how mindfulness practice relates to emotional balance. We're talking about working with challenging emotions over this month, and I just thought I would kind of give us a basis for some of that. At the heart of mindfulness practice is our capacity to become conscious of the automatic and often unconscious habitual mind and how it reacts to inner and outer stimulus. So this automatic pilot that we often talk about. So let's begin with just a definition of emotions to understand this. Emotion is a process relying on unconscious automatic appraisal of inner and outer experiences and is influenced by a number of factors. You may be familiar with many of these. The first is our biological evolution of fight, flight, freeze, the need for social connection, etc. Other factors are our personal history, especially our early childhood experience, when our social attachments impact brain circuits and its development. And also the role of evolution in emotion. As the evolutionary biologists talk about, to ensure our genetic survival over the past 200,000 years, humans had to respond rather quickly, automatically, instinctually to perceive threats without any hesitation to avoid becoming dinner for their fellow animals. For example, 50,000 years ago, we're walking through a clearing in the woods. It's a long time ago. We see a shaking bush as we search for food, and 99 times out of 100, the shaking bush was the result of the wind. But the 100th time the bush shook, a bear jumps out. And our survival and the brain, it learned to respond to the shaking bush as though a predator might leap out every time. Otherwise, we ran the risk of not reacting or becoming dinner for the bear. So ends our gene pool. Therefore, we've evolved to survive by acting rapidly and unconsciously to perceive threats to ensure our survival. An expert in this area, Wes Nisker, captures the situation in a wonderful quote: "Because of our evolutionary history, you are not your fault," meaning that our response to life is deeply rooted in our emotional brain, which is not typically subject to the influence by our rational thinking mind, unless we train to be more mindful. This emotional capacity to unconsciously respond to threat, of course, has both benefits and challenges. In the modern world, we all too often automatically respond to many situations as though they threaten our survival. But in reality, we're just imagining a worst case scenario, kind of catastrophizing the situation. This tendency of the emotional brain to automatically appraise experiences can be triggered by memories of the past, fantasies about the future, viewing others' emotions, or watching emotional displays on a screen or at the theater. Here's an example of automatic appraisal. The situation is the workplace, and an email is sent to all staff stating there will be no raises this coming fiscal year due to large expenditures focused on research and development. Some people may react with joy that more spending on R&D will ensure long-term health of the company. And another person can interpret the email as a hidden message that there will be layoffs in the coming months, which can foster emotions of anger, anxiety, and depression. When we get home, our unconscious tension comes out as being critical of our family or reacting to any idea about spending money as outrageous. Automatic emotional responses are, of course, necessary and often helpful to avoid potential danger, but too often they're dysfunctional and actually cause us more harm than good or help. So this is where mindfulness training can help. With mindfulness, we can learn to differentiate dysfunctional automatic emotions from functional automatic emotions. So helpful emotions versus destructive emotions. We learn to pause before immediately reacting to every emotional reaction. And in that pause, we can let go of emotions that are not helpful or useful. And when we do indulge in unhealthy emotions and responses, we learn to relate to them with acceptance, kindness, forgiveness, and commit to deepening our understanding of the root causes of our unhealthy reactive emotions, such as greed, anger, fear. Emotions tend to be short-lived as well, and cognitive scientists say emotions typically pass out of awareness in about 90 seconds. However, if we ruminate about the emotion, add to it, get in a dialogue with it, it will be sustained for as long as we continue to rehash the experience. And if we consistently respond to dysfunctional emotions with a negative mood response, we develop enduring traits which can create chronic psychological suffering and physical disease. A lot of words, but basically we're beginning to see that our meditation, our mindfulness practice, which trains us to see the coming and going of thoughts, emotions, and sensations in the mind and the body, and being able to be with those through the lens of taking them less personal, less attachment, and we're not really dissociating ourselves from them, but we're having enough distance where we're not being consumed by them. And when we're not being totally consumed by them, we have a little more perspective, and we can actually use our wisdom, a higher intelligence, to respond in a wise way, as opposed to just an unconscious reaction, which, as we were talking earlier, is often just based on automatic routines that we've learned from our biology or from our socialization, our families, and gives us that capacity to respond in a way that's healthy for us. Of course, that takes time, and that's what the practice is about, is developing that capacity to notice what's arising in the mind and the body and create enough space, enough of a pause to interrupt that automatic response and to respond consciously. And again, that's a practice that takes months and months, but as we deepen in our practice, if we do that daily, there is a shift in how we respond to experiences in our daily life. So I thought I would try another practice here, if you're ready. And this is about working with difficult emotions, and the emotion is fear. So to kind of get ready, I'll read just a little bit here, and then we'll do a practice to exploring fear in your life. Sounds exciting, doesn't it? But being with fear without moving away from it or repressing it is very important for actually creating more emotional balance. So the author here, this is from the book that we're reading, Essential Spirituality. And Dr. Walsh says, we devote enormous amounts of energy, time and energy to avoiding fear. One of the bigger challenging emotions we deal with, fear and anger, anxiety as well, probably. So what would it be like to consciously explore fear and learn from it? So we get to be friends with fear. It is less painful and more vulnerable than we might assume. Fear thrives in darkness and ignorance. But when we turn the light of awareness on it, it shrivels and transforms. So now we'll move into a practice to explore this. So if you want to settle into your posture again, you can close your eyes if you'd like, and I'll guide you in this practice. This is exercise 2, Explore Fear in the book. So he says, facing and exploring fear is a powerful means for healing it that can be tested in this following exercise. So we begin by just sitting comfortably, taking a few deep breaths and relaxing more and more into each breath. Find the whole body to soften and relax. Rest. So for this exercise, it's best to choose a fear that is maybe troubling but not overwhelming. Maybe it's a 6 on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most difficult. For example, a mild fear of spiders would be better than an overwhelming terror of heights. Hopefully that doesn't trigger anybody. So just allow yourself to feel some fear that you have. It's not going to overwhelm you. Bring something to mind. And begin to explore it. See what comes up when you bring this into your mind's eye. And notice the actual sensations of fear and where they seem to be located in your body. Where is the fear located? As you explore this, you feel that somewhere. And if you notice this in your body, how large is it? Does it have a shape, a color? Does it have a center and an edge? What does it feel like? Is it a tingling? Maybe a vibrating sensation? Is it hard or solid? Now just turn our attention to other aspects of this fear. So bringing that image in again. And what is this image that you associate with this fear? Maybe there's no image. Maybe it's just a feeling experience. And notice your posture. What's it like? Are there any particular muscles that may be contracted? Maybe the jaw or the throat or the chest, the shoulders, wherever that might be. And if you notice any areas of contraction, just invite those areas to soften and relax, just breathing slowly through those areas, inviting them to soften and relax. Just continuing now, touching into this fear and just noticing what thoughts are running through your mind. And perhaps it's a little different now as we explore the fear, having faced it, breathe into it, notice it in the body, and notice its location now. It might be different than when you first brought this into mind at the beginning. What's its size? What's its shape now? What does it feel like now? Just being careful to explore it carefully this second time, because the experience of fear, like all experiences, changes constantly. It may have a somewhat different size, shape, and feel from just a few minutes ago. What about your postures, your posture and muscle tension, maybe? Are the thoughts and images associated with fear different this time? You may notice something fascinating and freeing about the experience of fear through this practice. When you look closely, none of the sensations, thoughts, and images that make it up are terribly distressing in themselves. Perhaps the muscle tension or an image is a little uncomfortable. However, when we actually experience it, fear is usually nowhere near as devastating as we imagine it to be. Rather, it's our unexamined beliefs and fantasies about it and our unexplored reactions to it that lock us into the painful unconscious cycle of automatic contraction and withdrawal. And noticing something else, when you breathe slowly and consciously, the body and then the mind tend to relax. And as they do, the fear begins to lessen. So you've uncovered an important healing principle that meditators have discovered for centuries. You can't be relaxed and fearful at the same time. To the extent you can relax through breathing, yoga, and other methods, fear lessens and even dissolves. So now sit in a firm, erect posture with your back straight and shoulders back. What happens to the fear? The mind and body are so closely linked that to change one is to change the other. If you sit firm and erect, a posture associated with strength and courage, you tend to elicit these feelings and to diminish those of fear. This is one reason a strong posture is encouraged in meditation and exercise. So it'd be great if people could turn on their cameras if you're comfortable with that. And I'm just curious if people had the courage to explore some fears. And that was pretty quick. You can do this course on your own if you have the book. This exercise 2 is on page 84. And try it a couple more times and see. Of course, you can use it anytime that fear is overwhelming. Sometimes that happens when we're lying in bed at night and the mind can start to ruminate about some things that are coming up. And if we just get caught in that narrative and just keep going over and over, we tend to increase the intensity of the body and mind's reaction to it. Whereas if we, as this exercise showed, if we tune into physically, how are we feeling it? Does it have a place that it's manifesting? Does it have a size, a shape, a color? We're coming into the present moment and interrupting that ruminating mind, which then tends to soften, as he said, if we're slowly breathing or being with what's there in the moment. The ruminating mind slows down and our fight, flight, freeze uh, reaction tends to settle and the soothing part of the nervous system can kick in. and we can actually be with the fear without being overwhelmed by it. So I see a few people have turned on their cameras. I welcome the rest of you so we can see you. It's always more fun to see faces. And if you'd like to turn on your mic, if you have a question, if not, we don't have any questions or many. We'll move on into a more lengthy practice.
Eric,
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to also remind people that Eric is pinned, so none of your faces will show up in the video. Um, if you have concern for privacy, you can turn on your video. You will not show up on YouTube. So,
Unless you want to be a star, then you can send us an email and we'll pin you as well. But it's maybe your debut for reality TV. Does anybody have any reluctance to even dive into fears? Is this like, are you kidding me? There's plenty of them out there in the world today and in our lives. So I think it's a technique that probably we can benefit from. All right. Well, let's move into some more practice then. I don't think I'm going to be working with any more fear. No hatred. Hatred was the next one, so we'll let that go till 2 weeks from now. So I thought I'd say just a little bit. I don't know how many people are new tonight. We did seem like we had some new names. But I'll just say a little bit about mindfulness and compassion. Kind of, we call it two wings of the practice. Um, Mindfulness, has been adapted from its origins in the West and the East, and it's been kind of touted as a stress management tool, which it can be. But mindfulness is really a tool to help us look at our own patterns of reactivity. And it helps us to notice where we may be stuck around strong craving attachment. We dealt with this topic a bit, I think, in October, and noting that when we're overly attached or caught in craving all the time, it causes a lot of suffering, because when we can't get what we want, then there's the suffering arises. So this capacity to begin to learn what supports wise responses to life and what creates confusion or unpleasant experiences, unpleasant emotions, we start to have greater awareness of that. So a lot of the unconscious reactivity that we typically have, mindfulness begins to bring that more and more into consciousness. And we can, as I said earlier, we can begin to be familiar with our patterns of reactivity. And when they start to come up in our day-to-day life, we're familiar enough to go, oh, I kind of know how this plays out. If I follow this fear or this anger or this anxiety, I know kind of the endpoint of it. And it's not a one that brings balance or joy into life. So we begin to discern what actions are helpful, what responses are unhelpful. The other piece that we do learn as we deepen into practice is that, as this practice is talking about, we dealt with fear and we looked at it and we examined it, and then we paused, and then we examined the fear again, and we might have noticed, oh, the fear has shifted a little bit, or I notice it in my body, it's in a different spot, or maybe it's not quite as intense. So we start to also see that thoughts and emotions are quite temporary. They come and go. It's when we ruminate on them that we can make catastrophe out of whatever difficult thought or emotion that's happening, and we can get overwhelmed from it and then act in ways that aren't in alignment with our deeper values. So again, we're kind of creating this space to have greater equanimity, less reactivity, and more wise responses to life based on our deeper values. And we'll talk a bit more about, I think actually in chapter one, that we had some writings on how we connect with our deeper values. So if you want to look at that again in the book, it's helpful. So that being said, the other piece of mindfulness is meeting our experience, whatever happens in our practice or in life, with a kind heart. Mindfulness is simply, having that capacity to be in the present moment more fully and less lost in rumination. But it can be sterile, it can be non-emotive, and it's important that we cultivate our own kindness and our own compassion, because as these practices would show, that we really see that our benefit, our health is highly dependent on the health of everyone around us, that our happiness is dependent upon the environment that we're in. So having compassion and treating others as we would want to be treated, that golden rule, is a good pathway to having a life that's more positive, more enjoyable, more rewarding, and having gratitude for all that we have in our life, through all those relationships. We don't live as islands, and these practices would show us that more and more, that we're actually deeply interconnected with one another. So let's move into some more practice. So once again, just tuning into what is my motivation for practicing right now. Letting go of any expectations for any specific outcome. And we're just developing this capacity to be with whatever arises in the thoughts, emotions, and body, with acceptance. And we begin these practices with concentration to stabilize the attention, so that we have enough peace of mind to even notice what's going on. Otherwise, the mind can just appear as completely chaotic and jumping around all over the place. So we first train in concentration. And once we have the mind somewhat stable, we can begin to notice what's rising in the mind and the patterns that are arising. So we'll begin just with concentration. So again, checking the posture. Feet are on the floor, back is straight, shoulders are back a bit. Eyes can be closed if you'd like. Take 2 or 3 slow, deep breaths, coming into the awareness of the breath in the body. Now the body scan will be kind of a simplified body scan, and we just notice contact points of the body to the space around us. So we'll just begin with feet, noticing sensations of the feet on the floor. Bringing attention up through the legs into the sits bones, and just noticing sensations there as the sits bones contact the cushion, the chair, whatever you're lying down on the bed. Just noticing that contact. Just inviting that whole lower body to soften, soothe, and rest, from the hips down through the thighs, the knees, the shins, the ankles, the feet, the toes. And for the next 10 minutes or so, there's nothing to do, nowhere to go, no problems to solve. So we're just being with the present moment experience as we walk through these body sensations and ultimately with the breath. So now just noticing the hands contacting one another, or on the legs, being the sensations there in the hands. And just inviting the shoulders, the arms, and the hands to soften, soothe, and rest. And just inviting the whole upper body, the chest, the belly, the hips, the back, the shoulders to soften, soothe, and rest. Inviting the shoulders, the neck, the throat, the jaw, the chin, the cheeks, the lips, the nose, the eyes, and forehead, soften, soothe, and rest. Find the scalp, the whole head, the ears, the back of the head, face, jaw, neck, shoulders, soften, soothe, and rest. I'm just bringing awareness to the entire body. By bringing awareness, it's primarily just noticing the sensations that you experience when you bring attention to the body. Primarily sensations on the skin or in the body. Maybe sensations of the air contacting the skin. Just bringing the attention and narrowing it just a bit to just the upper body now. And especially feeling into the abdomen and the chest and the ribs, the shoulders, and just being with the experience of the breath in the upper body, being with the sensations of the rise and fall of the abdomen and the chest. You'd like to narrow the attention just a bit more, tuning into the sensation of the breath at the abdomen or the chest, or the sensation of the breath in the nostrils and the nose. And just being at the beginning, middle, and end of each breath cycle. And if you'd like to add at the end of the in breath, you can count one, the end of the out breath, count two, and just to count in that way for a couple minutes. You can drop it when you want, and when the mind feels stable. So it's just another method to help stabilize and focus attention a bit on checking in with the sensation at the belly, the chest, the nose, and using the counting at the end of each breath. Just riding the wave of sensation of the breath in the body. If there's a little sleepiness, just making certain your posture is upright, bringing a little more energy into the body. If there's a lot of distraction and agitation, just softening and relaxing a little bit. So just adjusting, kind of being that middle place of relaxed alertness, not too relaxed, not too alert. Just finding that sweet place of alert, moment by moment attention to the breath and the body. This couple minutes, if you'd like, we can move into a practice we call effortless mindfulness. And rather than having an object of focus like the breath, the sensation of the breath, we simply rest in awareness itself. We're this kind of observing whatever is happening in the mind and the body. So we might imagine ourselves like our awareness is like sitting in a movie theater, and on the screen, we see various thoughts, emotions, and sensations come and go through the mind. But as an audience member, we can just watch it without getting drawn into the story too much. We know it's just images on a screen of the mind. And we have this capacity just this let thoughts, emotions, and sensations arise and dissolve without the need to push them away, the unpleasant ones, or grabbing on to the pleasant ones. So we cultivate this capacity of equanimity and acceptance towards the movie screen of the mind. And this cultivates that capacity to be with life in our day-to-day experiences with less reactivity and more wisdom. So you're just observing this play of the mind and the body with an open heart, and just allowing all to come and go as we observe it. Let's invite the whole body to soften, soothe, and rest. Just noticing any tension that might be there. And just for another minute or so, we'll just continue to be the observer of the experiences in the mind and the body. Close with loving kindness phrases, beginning with ourselves. Maybe bringing the attention into the heart now, the chest area. May I be happy and joyful in this moment. May I recognize the divinity, the perfection at the core of my being, this place of compassion, forgiveness, gratitude. May I know inner peace. May I know peace in all my relationships. May I be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. May I let go of past patterns that no longer serve me. May I live with ease. Standing in kindness to all beings, reading out this loving kindness in front of us and behind us, to the left, to the right, above us and below us. May all beings be happy and joyful. May all beings be healthy in mind, healthy in body, healthy in spirits. May all beings know inner peace and outer peace. May all beings be free from suffering and free from the causes of suffering. May all beings live with ease. And just bringing the attention down into the belly again, feeling the breath in the belly, taking a few deep breaths. Feeling the feet firmly on the ground, connecting the energy of this earth body to this Mother Earth body. Giving gratitude for this breath that we breathe, the water we drink, the food we eat that's so unconditionally given by this Mother Earth. We give thanks. Thanks to this body. Gratitude for the relationships, both human and natural, that sustain us, our family, friends, our pets, the natural world around us. And thank you for being with us tonight. We'll see you in a couple weeks. If you'd like to continue to read in the book, we're reading the chapter practice 2, beginning on page 71. Cultivate emotional wisdom. There's quite a few different practices there that you can browse through and work with if you'd like. So it was nice being with everyone tonight, and hope you have a pleasant week ahead. And I guess we'll close with a slide.
I was going to try to bring it up, and it's going back to the very first slide that just continues to want to play.
Okay.
So basically, what the slides would be is one is our donation slide, which we always have, which is these programs that we offer are offered free, and they help us continue to lend a voice of love and justice to the world. So I'm just putting in the chat the real quick. You can give online at the tinyurl.com, donate to UCC, or by check, Unitarian Universalist Community Church, or UUCC in the payable portion of the check, and then just send it to the church, 10441 Shaver Road, Portage. Thank you all for coming, as Eric was saying. And then the final slide would be just to say the next session is the 23rd of December, and that's right before Christmas. So until then, I don't know, Eric, if you want to have the final word, but that's the slides.
That's fine. And we'll be sending a follow-up email with a link to this meditation tonight. So if you want to use that in your practice, you can. So talk to you all later. Be with you. Bye-bye.